Guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I am going to be sharing with you my most anticipated books of January 2023. This is in no way a January TBR, mostly because I don't yet own any of these books and I do have a backlog of books that I need to get to first. So that's just a disclaimer right there. These are just the books that I am most looking forward to. I actually have some of these on hold already at my library, but I'm very far down the list, so there's no guarantee that I will get to the books that I do have on hold in January. While I am excited for all of these books, hence the fact that they're on a most anticipated list, there are some books that I'm anticipating more than others, so this list is going to increase with the level of anticipation. Firstly, we have How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. First off, let me say the first sentence of the book's description sold me. It was, every childhood home is haunted and each of us are possessed by our parents. This book is about two estranged siblings named Louise and Mark who inherited their childhood home after their parents died from COVID. When they go to sell the house, they realize that there are newspapers taped over the mirrors and the attic door is nailed shut. Obviously, there is something paranormal going on in the house, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if COVID had nothing to do with the cause of the parents' death, but I'm sure we'll find out about that, and I'm interested to see what this book is all about. This book is one of the books I currently have on hold at my library, but I am last on the list, so more than likely not going to get to it this month, but that's alright because this is the book that I am least anticipating. I hate saying that because I really am anticipating this book, but it's just I am anticipating the other ones more. The next book we have is The Blue Bar by Damayanti Biswas, and I apologize if I butchered that last name. This book is about a detective named Ornav. Again, I'm sorry if I am mispronouncing that. He's investigating the disappearance of a lover of his named Tara, who disappeared 13 years before the events of this book. She accepted a job from a client of hers who offered her a lot of money to act out a fantasy. All she has to do is wear a blue sequin sari, go to a crowded railroad station, and escape from view pretty much less than 3 minutes after she walks into this railway station. Dismembered bodies start to show up, and one of the few links that connects them is bits of blue sequins, which, of course, was what Tara was wearing. This mystery sounds super interesting, and this is an author I've never heard of before, but it looks like she's written quite a few books, so we'll see what I think about this book and if I end up reading anything else by her in the future. The next book we have is Spice Road by Maya Imbriam. I apologize again if I'm butchering that. This book is the first of what's going to be an epic fantasy series that takes place in an Arabian-inspired city called Kalia. This book is about a girl named Imani who sounds like she's pretty much someone who fights sandborn monsters, which sounds super cool to me, and I'm really excited about reading about these monsters and the descriptions of them. Imani's brother was caught stealing a spice that sounds like it's linked to magic. It's speculated that after doing that, he's died, but Imani soon finds out that there is some evidence that suggests he isn't dead at all. She sets out with two others on a journey to find her brother and to stop him from exposing the secrets of their city. In the book summary, it says that Imani has to navigate the treacherous road between protecting the ones you love and staying loyal to the place you call home. This conflict very much so reminds me of a conflict that was in the Ivory Key, which I read back in June, July-ish of 2022. The main character of that book, I honestly can't remember her name, was the queen of her land, and she had to lock her brother up because it was believed that he murdered their mother, who was the former queen, and her brother swore that he didn't do it. So she was kind of trapped between her loyalty to her family and her duties as someone who was in political power because she had duties to her people. There was actually a few other things that reminded me of the Ivory Key when I came across Spice Road. This book is taking place in an Arabian-inspired land, as Ivory Key took place in what seemed to be an India-inspired land. So the setting, even though their fantasies, have very Earth-like settings. In the Ivory Key, magic was mined and put into ordinary objects, whereas in Spice Road, it seems to be tied to obviously a spice. I think the premise of Spice Road sounds really cool, and I really hope I like it because unfortunately I was not a huge fan of the second half of the Ivory Key, which I absolutely loved the premise of, but didn't like the execution of. I talked a little bit about it in a wrap up that I will link above and down below for you. But yes, definitely excited about Spice Road. I really want this book to whisk me away into a fantasy land and get lost in what sounds to be a really awesome story. The next book we have is The Hunter by Jennifer Herrera. This book is about a detective named Lee who is going through a rough time after being divorced and losing her job. So she returns to her hometown, which is a place called Copper Falls, which seems to be like your typical small town, but of course it isn't. And Lee starts to investigate three very suspicious drownings. And while investigating these drownings, she has to go way back into the past to learn the secrets about the town that go back generations. I absolutely love books and TV shows about small towns and the secrets that they hold, and I'm hoping that this book brings something new to the table with that. I'm just really hoping that the book is not what I think it is, and there isn't a case where the book summary gives away the twist of the book, but it alludes to the fact that Lee has been reckless with some of her decisions, and there's a question of not being able to trust herself. So I'm really hoping that this doesn't fall down the main character drinks a lot, unreliable narrator trope, but we'll see. I'm curious to see where this book goes. The next book is You Must Remember This by Kate Rosenfield. In this book, a woman named Miriam, who is suffering from dementia, walks out onto a frozen lake, and she used to do this years ago to meet up with a lover of hers. Unfortunately, she ends up drowning in the lake when the ice snaps. The mystery of this book revolves around whether it was an accident, suicide, or murder, because there are plenty of people in Miriam's family who unfortunately have a motive to want her dead. These reasons are ranging from her will to just plain wanting her to die, which sounds super sad. A gathering that started out as a Christmas celebration turns to be one of everyone in the family trying to figure out what happened, and I'm assuming pointing fingers and finding inconsistencies in stories. So this book is described as a Knives Out style whodunit with a twist of Taylor Jenkins Reid. So these are going to be two hot takes, but I personally didn't really like Knives Out that much. I liked the beginning and I thought the explanation was okay, but I found the middle of the movie to be quite boring, and I definitely predicted the ending as far as what happened to Marta and her family. I think the one redeeming thing about Knives Out though was that Christopher Plummer was in it. RIP, you are sorely missed. But yeah, if you want a movie that's a whodunit and has a very similar presence as far as a bunch of people and family members being questioned as to who murdered someone, I would highly suggest Gosford Park. This is a movie that came out in 2001, and I think they did this type of story a lot better, and I would highly recommend it. And it has McGonagall and the Dowager Countess herself, Dame Maggie Smith, in the movie, and who wouldn't want that? The other hot take I have is I haven't read anything from Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I don't really have any desire to. Maybe that'll change one day. We'll see. Nevertheless, I do enjoy mystery stories like this where there are a bunch of people with different motives for murder, so I'm really excited to see where this book goes. Also, I wonder if the song As Time Goes By is going to play a role in this book because of the title. Maybe it will be a song from Miriam's past when she spent time with her lover. I don't know, but can't see the title of the book without thinking about that song. I think a viewing of Sleepless in Seattle is in order very soon. Next up, we have The Bandit Queens by Parini Shroff, and again, I apologize if I butchered that name. This book sounds really cool. It's about a jewelry seller named Gita whose toxic husband has disappeared, and everyone seems to think that she killed him even though she denies having doing it. Then she realizes that having this reputation of being someone who allegedly kills her husband isn't necessarily a bad thing because people don't mess with her. It also persuades people to buy jewelry from her. She soon starts to get requests from other women who want her to kill off their own husbands, some of which are even demanding it. And Gita has to decide how much she is willing to do to maintain this new lifestyle and how far is she willing to go for this. I think the premise of this book sounds absolutely awesome, and it also was put into the mystery category from what I can see. And I'm excited to see where it goes as far as Gita is concerned. But I also really want to know if we ever find out what actually happened to Gita's husband. It looks like this may be a debut book for the author from what I can see, so that'll be very interesting. Next, we have The Things We Do to Our Friends by Heather Durbin. This book is about someone named Claire who moves to Scotland to get a fresh start and forget what happened to her in her past. And it is here that she meets a rich girl named Tabitha and her exclusive clique of friends that Tabitha has. And so Claire kind of becomes friends with them. Tabitha then tells Claire that she needs Claire to help her with some things that pretty much seem to require Claire to do some of the things that she's trying not to do, stuff that she might have been trying to escape from in the first place. This kind of, in a way, reminds me of a similar theme to the Bandit Queens as far as how far are you willing to go to maintain a lifestyle that you had, but I'm very, very excited for this. I'm also excited to see what exactly it is that Tabitha has planned for Claire. Next up, we have All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. This book is about a woman named Isabel whose son, Mason, was stolen from his crib while she and her husband were sleeping. This happens 1 year before the events of the book takes place. Because she is so anxious and determined to find her son, Isabel barely sleeps at all within this past year since her son was kidnapped. She does an interview on a true crime podcast, but the interviewer seems to have a lot of questions about Isabel and her past. And because of her lack of sleep, Isabel starts to question herself and what she remembers from that night. I feel like this book is very much going to rely on the unreliable narrator device, so I'm slightly worried that I might have already predicted the ending. I have a few theories, but we'll see. I'm very intrigued to read this book, and I do have it on hold at my library currently. Next up is The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. This book is about a woman named Emily who takes a trip to Italy to reconnect with her childhood friend named Chess after losing touch with her as they got older. They go to this villa that back in the 70s was rented for the summer by someone named Noel Gordon, who is a rock star, and a few friends of his went with him too to this villa back in the 70s. Over the course of this summer in the 70s, a bunch of things happen, and one of Noel's friends named Pierce ends up dead. Two of Noel's surviving friends end up being creatively inspired because of all of this. One of the friends ends up writing a very famous horror book, and the other produces a platinum album. I think this book may be told in dual timelines and perspectives because it sounds like Emily starts to investigate what happened to Pierce. I just got done watching the second season of The White Lotus, which took place in Italy, and Italy is one of my top places that I want to travel when I am able to. So I'm very excited to be reading a story that takes place in Italy, especially coming right off of The White Lotus. Paula Hawkins also wrote The Girl on the Train, which is a book that I really did like. And I also like the movie adaptation, which stars Emily Blunt. So I'm definitely going to be picturing Emily Blunt as the main character when I read The Villa. I do have this book on hold at the library, but I am 24th in line, so I may not be seeing this book for a while, unfortunately. Next up, we have What Lies in the Woods by Kate Alice Marshall. This book is about a woman named Naomi Shaw, who 22 years prior to the time that this book is taking place, was stabbed 17 times in the woods while playing a game with her two best friends. She survives and identifies the man who attacked her, and because her and her two friends were witnesses to this, they help send this man who did this to jail. And it turns out this guy is also a serial killer. The summary of the book says that Naomi and her friends lied, though, and they were keeping whatever lie they were telling a secret all this time in regards to the person who attacked Naomi. Olivia, who is one of Naomi's friends, wants to come clean and tell the truth about what happened. I do have some theories as to what could be going on here, but I'm intrigued nonetheless, and this book is currently on hold at my library, and it is one of the shorter waits. Next, we have Just the Nicest Couple by Mary Kabika. In this book, a woman named Nina thinks her husband is spending time at a friend's house until he doesn't return home one night. Nina's coworker named Lily confides in her husband, Christian, that she thinks that Lily, was the last person to see Jake. And Lily and her husband, Christian, try to keep this and other information from Nina, Jake's wife. This book summary doesn't reveal a lot about the plot, and I like that because I absolutely hate the twist and whole plot being given away from the summary. And there are some books on this list where I think that may be an issue, but that's not the case with this book, and I'm happy about that. This book is one of the longer waits at my library, but I am in line to get it. Next, we have Do I Know You by Emily Wibberby and Austin Sigmund Broca. I apologize if I butchered that. This book is about a couple named Eliza and Graham who go on a vacation to California for their 5-year anniversary. Unfortunately, they have lost the spark in their marriage. Eliza and Graham go to a bar, and another person who is there thinks that they're both single and decides to set them up. Eliza and Graham decide to play along with this and act like they just met, and in doing so, reignite the spark that seems to have been lost. But the question is, will the spark last after the jig is up and they go back to their normal lives? Can I just say that reading this summary as far as a couple who lost their spark made me think about the movie Hope Springs and made me really want to rewatch it? I don't know. In the movie, the couple isn't playing a game like what's happening in this book, but the whole couple going on a vacation and their spark being lost, they're not having the greatest time in their marriage. It's very similar to this. Those of you who have been watching my videos and perhaps even reading my blog, which I will link down below, may know that I'm not a huge fan of romances, and I myself was a bit surprised that this was so far up in my picks and on my list at all. But I think the premise of this book is so interesting, and I'm honestly super excited to read it, to the point to where I may have to go out and buy it, even if it's a super cheap secondhand copy or something, because I really want to read this book and see what happens. It seems super fun, and I think the premise is really creative. I hope when playing this game we get some nods to possibly some earlier times in their relationship or something cute like that. If this book makes me happy cry, I will not be sad. This book also has one of the higher ratings on Goodreads of all of these picks that I'm presenting to you, so I'm excited and really hope that I'm not disappointed. Next up is Episode 13 by Craig DeLuey. This book is about a husband-wife team who have a ghost hunting reality show. In episode 13 of this reality show, they go to the Paranormal Research Foundation, which is this huge haunted mansion which back in the 70s had crazy experiments going on in it. The husband, Matt, has apparently some scientific evidence to prove that the place actually is haunted. They're not just saying, oh, this is a haunted house. There's actually apparently some evidence of it. Of course, though, when you're dealing with ghosts and the paranormal, it's not always as fun as it may seem. Now, I normally don't read a lot of horror, but I'm mostly excited for this book because of the format that the summary says it's told in. It says it's told in broken pieces in tapes, journals, correspondence, and research files. And I absolutely love books that are told in different formats like this, which leads me into my number one most anticipated pick. This is going to be a spoiler for those of you who haven't yet watched my 2022 wrap up. In that video, I ranked all the books that I read in 2022 from worst to best, and the author of my number one anticipated book of January is also the author of my top 2 books. So if you haven't watched that wrap up yet and would like to at some point, then you can skip over this part for now and come back later. But my most anticipated book of January and possibly of the year is The Mysterious Case of the Apperton Angels by Janice Hallett. Janice Hallett is one of my new favorite authors, and I am so happy that I discovered her early last year, and this is probably going to be a book that I go out and purchase. This book seems to be similar to her last 2 books in that it's told in a little bit of a different format. The contents of the book appear to be in a safe deposit box, and the story appears to be told in the form of research material for a true crime book. The reader is invited to read the documents and decide for themselves that if they want to destroy the documents or take them to the police. This is very similar to the marketing of The Appeal, where the reader was invited to go over the emails that were in a case file and work out what is going on from there. But in this new book, there is a cult called the Alberton Angels. And the members of this cult believe that a baby that was born to one of the cult members is the Antichrist. And so they decide to kill the baby. The baby's mom's name is Holly, and she snaps out of this cult like mindset when she finds out that they want to kill her baby and goes to the police. But because they would rather die than get arrested, they all decide to end their lives, except for Holly and the baby, who disappear into the care system. Then, almost 20 years later, a true crime podcaster tries to track down this baby and interview her, but there is another rival author who has more connections than her, who also wants to interview this baby. I probably shouldn't word it like that because you can't interview a baby, but I'm sure you know what I mean. The baby from 18 years ago has obviously grown up and they want to interview that person. So the podcaster and the author start to work together to find out where this child is, and in so realize that the Alberton Angels call is more effed up than everyone originally thought. I will be honest, I'm a little less interested in the plot of this book than I was in the Appeal and the Twyford Code. However, like the other two books, I'm very much looking forward to the format that it seems this book is going to take, where with the documents that it is presenting and saying that you, the reader, have to decide for yourself what you think, and just the interactive aspect of it. Obviously, in any book, you can decide what you think, but I hope you know what I mean. So, yeah, those are my most anticipated books of January 2023. Let me know below what books you are most looking forward to in January of 2023, and if we have similar tastes. Are there any of these books that I mentioned that you're also looking forward to? But yeah, as I mentioned, I will try to get to these books as soon as I can. I'm not exactly sure where in my TBR they will fall, but I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what I'm looking forward to. Again, I do have a book blog that I am going to link down below if you guys want to check that out. I am not very post heavy right now. I just have one review up, but I am going to be working on that. So I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.